Giddy up. How's everybody doing? Welcome to episode 1, the first of many, the first of millions, possibly, of PodToga. I am Mark DiLorenzo with GiddyUpBets.
And I am Chantal Sutherland.
The infamous Chantal Sutherland, who doesn't need an introduction, multiple graded stakes winning jockey Chantal Sutherland. How are you? How is everything going?
Good. I'm doing good. Really happy to be doing this with you finally. And I mean, we've been talking about it forever. So I'm really excited. I love the name that you've come up with. And yeah, it's going to be fun.
We talked about doing this a couple of years ago at a sale. And we kind of were like, we should do a podcast. And this is what PodToga is going to be. So we're going to bring to you something that I think is kind of unique. And one of the reasons why I think we both kind of agreed to do this with each other. Because, I always say like the two most valuable commodities in life are like time and information, right? So like we don't have a ton of time, providing people with good information about horse riding, horse playing is something that is unique and interesting, which I think we could give you. We're going to do a podcast and it's going to be quick. It's going to be impactful. We're going to have interviews with people. We're going to do recaps. We will talk about stakes races that are on tap. We're going to get into some of the gossip that goes around in the horse racing world. We're going to talk about, anything kind of under the horse racing moon plus that. There's a lot of different directions we can go, but I'm super excited. Last Belmont Stakes day, I guess you could say, we had been friendly in passing for a couple of years, and then last Belmont Stakes, it was a beautiful day, and we were sitting there near the post bar, and we really talked about doing a podcast. And I was like, I've had so many people kind of ask me to do something like this. You've had a lot of people ask you, and I felt like I want to do it with somebody that is going to give me something that I can't see, and with your experience and your eyes and your knowledge, I just feel that this could be something special where I could talk about the little that I know about the game, more from a horse player side, and you're going to be talking more about from the horseman, the horsewoman side, the jockey side, the bloodstock side, things of that nature that you're so familiar with. Does that sound right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I love talking about that stuff, and I have a lot of experience. What I do love about what you have to add is your high energy, and then also your knowledge about handicapping is outstanding, and how well you do and how incredible you are at picking sixes and just everything. Like, you're just always winning every time I come, and like, you're printing money. And I think it's awesome. It's exciting. I'm a chicken at betting, but every time I'm around you, I'm like, I should probably bet. Well, I love helping people see what I feel in the paddock and things that you could maybe look at that maybe some people don't see that I see, because I've had the experience of being on a horse. So I think it's going to be kind of a really cool connection, combination, link.
Yeah, that's, another good point. I think what this is going to be is that it's going to go inside the mind of a horse player, inside the mind of a jockey, and kind of merge that together, which I think is going to be something that's going to be unique, really cool, and I'm excited for, and I hope other people are going to be excited for. But to take a step back from what you just said, I founded GiddyUpBets this will be my 7th full year, and I mainly focus on the New York races. I chart out the trips and biases pretty much every weekend, every day that NYRA is running. I'll do some of the bigger circuits. We have our good days and we have our bad days. This weekend we had a lot of success on Sunday. Saturday was okay. Friday we had some success. Thursday was okay. So I try to provide people through GiddyUpBets information. You subscribe at GiddyUpBets.com. I would like to provide people with research and analysis, trips, bias information, pace projection, and then I'll send you out a grid and kind of weight it. I know you are on the email subscription list and you kind of see what I'm doing, but I'm sure certain people are going to be out there and kind of maybe like, who the heck is this guy? If you want to sign up for my, what I would call newsletter during the week to kind of get a feel of what GiddyUpBets is all about, you go to GiddyUpBets.com and kind of go from there. Let's kind of just get into it, I guess, right? Like the best thing that I think we're going to be kind of doing is that this is going to be entertaining, and just my personality and your personality together is that we're going to get a couple laughs out of this. So let's talk about the Belmont Stakes weekends in whole. You were down in Monmouth, right? Let's do this first. I know from talking to you over the past couple of months, weeks, what you've been up to. But I think the viewers out there, the listeners out there, unless you've been hiding under a rock in the horse racing world for the last 20 years, have a pretty good idea of how great of a jockey you have been and still are. But give me a little bit of a timeline. What's going on with you? What have you been up to? I know you spent a little bit of time in Dubai. I know you were with a couple of friends of mine and you were riding for Bupat, who won the Dubai World Cup last year. You're currently at Monmouth, but give me the quick timeline of what Chantal Sutherland has been doing up to. Give me the take. What's going on?
So for the last 2 years, I've kind of been rehabbing. And last summer, I was feeling so good again and ready to get back on horses. So I worked for Chad Brown, Todd Pletcher. I got to see and feel how their system works. And both systems are incredible. It was a great experience. I think I was body sore for the first month. And then I didn't really want to ride at Gulfstream or anywhere in the winter because those meets can get pretty tough if you don't have business going in. And I didn't want to start off an injury for that. So I had an idea, and I had gone to Dubai in the past, and I was like, this is a great time for me to try it. So I talked to Bupat Simar and his wife, Caroline Simar, and asked them about, galloping for them and then also racing. And so in Dubai, not to get too carried away, but they have contract jockeys. So I was fourth choice. So it's not always so great because you get fourth pick of the horses. And but nevertheless, it was an amazing experience. I started racing in January. And then now I've come to Monmouth because George Delgado, as everybody knows, is a trainer, or Jorge Delgado is a trainer that I love to ride for, that he has supported me in the past. And he has a lot of horses. So I thought, I'll come here. And at Monmouth, you kind of got to work a little harder. Jockeys got to get on horses in the morning, and I have no problem with that. So I've been doing that a lot for him and getting some mounts. I have some mounts. I think I have 4 on Saturday. I ride for him. I ride for Juana Villa. I'm loving Jersey, the Jersey Shore. I love Rooney's, one of my favorite restaurants right now. And I love the mix. What else? It's been really fun.
Don't butter me up too much. If you're going to start saying how great New Jersey is, being from New Jersey and growing up at the Jersey Shore, cool. I'm going to have to start, it's cool, they call it the shore's greatest stretch for a reason. Monmouth is where I grew up. That's where I learned how to, bet on horses. I used to take a $20 voucher and turn it into $200 and pay for dinner for me and my dad. So that's Monmouth's awesome. The place to be. But
I think it is. And it's like a boutique. It's got its own little boutique.
Got its own vibe for sure. Yes,
pretty.
For sure.
Yep. And they are, I would say everybody's super friendly, but everyone's like a little cliquey, but I feel like I'm starting to make some progress. I am new here, but not new.
I see you from a distance. I went down to Monmouth and saw you a couple weeks ago. We kind of talked about the podcast and how we're going to kind of figure that whole thing out. And we talked about you just kind of going down there, and you're working hard, hustling. And I saw you here last summer at, right next to the Horseshoe at 4:30 in the morning, every morning, working for Chad, working for Todd. And, I just give you a ton of credit for, going through what you went through with some of the injuries and the last thing that happened to you. And then I, heard from some pretty good sources in Dubai. You were out there hustling, and it's exciting. You're kind of like getting back into it, and it's one of those things that's going to take time, but I'm excited for you. I'm excited that you have time to do this with me. And, God bless. I wish you all the luck in the world. I'm always cheering for you. And I'm just hoping, you still have time for PodToga podcast when, you start riding, day to day.
I'm excited for this. I think it's going to be fun. And if nothing less, we have lots of things to offer. Like we could later get into the fashion of races for the big races, the Haskell coming up, and then also what cool restaurants are cool to go to in Toga, but also Monmouth.
You're not going to go too many episodes or too many minutes in a podcast without talking about food with me. So that's being a fat Italian New Jersey person. That's what we're going to get. But let's break into it. That was kind of the introduction. We're 10 minutes deep. again, we kind of want to keep this. I don't know. There's a place in the horse racing world. I respect a lot of the podcasts that are out there, but what you're not going to get from us is we're not going to go through a racing form and go, this is what we think of the 1. This is what we think of the 2. This is what we thought happened with the 3. We're going to kind of break it down, and we're going to recap some of these races of what she saw with her eyes being a jockey for so long, what I saw with my eyes from being a horse player. And we're going to kind of just do a quick little recap here of the Belmont Stakes. Then Chantel's going to kind of go over a few rides, a few horses that she found interesting. I'm going to kind of piggyback off of that. But let's start with the Belmont Stakes weekends. As a whole, there's a lot to be said. But again, keeping with the pace of time in people's lives, I last year was something incredibly special. Like I said, we were there together, and the electricity at Saratoga was just it was unbelievable. And I remember standing next to you when Mindframe was acting up in the paddock, and you were kind of telling me exactly this horse is going to probably run really well. It's a big time horse. It's going to lug. Everything you said happened. But the overall day, the weather was beautiful, and it was an incredible day, 2024. Yeah. The rain really sucked a lot of energy out of a lot of people. They took away all the pick 5s, a lot of the pick 5s, the pick 6. It stunk. It wasn't fun. There's nothing we could do about the weather. NYRA did an incredible job. But when the Belmont Stakes started to get, close, you started to feel it. And that's what makes horse racing so incredible. You feel that vibe, that buzz. And I kind of want to, it was an incredible weekend. It was an incredible race. So let's just kind of break into it and, talk about it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think Junior Alvarado has been riding so well this past year. I love the confidence he has with Billy Mott. They have that Todd Pletcher, Johnny V kind of, relationship where he can maybe stay on the rail, or he's not panicking. He doesn't worry. He's got a lot of confidence riding for him. You can see it, you can feel it. And I just love that relationship. It's so beautiful when you can find that as a jockey, like a trainer who's not going to fire you or you off every time that you make a mistake or, get mad at you. So it's kind of cool to see. And I think it shows in his riding this last year. I think he's really, I think it was an amazing race. I thought Sovereignty is just what an incredible horse. And also Journalism himself was what a great race. And the kiss was a lot after the race. I think there were lips there, but maybe that's an Italian thing. You Italians,
you never know where you're going to get out of the Italians. Okay. But looking at the race, I just paused the Belmont Stakes, and when Journalism, if you can see my mouse over, he's sitting in the pocket on the rail right here. I bet Baeza. I thought that the top 3 in the Kentucky Derby really separated themselves for me in my eyes of who the top 3-year-old colts were. Journalism, Baeza, Sovereignty. I felt that there was very minimum of a gap between who was better after the Kentucky Derby. So I was trying to get the third. I was looking for a decent enough price if I was going to make a win bet, and I ended up betting Baeza, but I kind of used Baeza as a lone A, but I also used Sovereignty, but I knew I was cooked right here. So we just went through the quarter in 23 and 3. That looks right for me. And Baeza is 4 or 5 wide, not forward, and Sovereignty drew a great post, and we knew Rodriguez was going to go to the front. And like you were talking about, Junior knows this horse so well, his connection with Bill Mott, and putting in this position, it was right about here. I see Crudo kind of, he's getting held back a little bit. Rodriguez is on the front end, putting his momentum together. I knew that when Rodriguez missing the Preakness and Derby, I don't think if he passed the vet, I think everything was right with his feet, but he wasn't going to be training at the same level, right? Over the last couple of weeks. That was kind of I felt like he was going to get tired at 1.25 miles. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That whole edge of racing fitness.
Yeah. If his feet weren't good enough to run, he wasn't going to be training as well. But right here, Journalism makes the move first.
Yeah.
Did you have a problem with Rispoli going a little bit early? But that's what he needed to do, right? He needed to get the jump.
Time to go. And, and I just think that right here, this is where Sovereignty was just outstanding. The way that he strides there, and that it's just unbelievable.
Powerful.
And oh God, he's just another time zone there.
Yeah, just powerful the way that he came down the stretch.
Like he just put on the gas there, and he still was not at this peak when he hit the wire. He was still accelerating. I think he has such beautiful acceleration. He rode a great race. I think Rospoli rode well too. And journalism, I mean, maybe you could factor in, this is a fresher horse, but the way that he accelerated, I don't know.
That was kind of like the whispers again, Sovereignty skipped the Preakness because of the Dubai World Cup. Sovereignty didn't skip the Preakness. That's my opinion, and I think that's kind of floating around out there. Like, Godolphin really wants this horse to win the Dubai World Cup in March, April next year. So like they didn't want to run the horse 3 times in 5 weeks. This was not Belmont being like, I think if it was Belmont and maybe a trainer that was based more in America, maybe they would have gone into the Preakness, and who knows if it would have won. And then from that, who knows if it would have won the Belmont Stakes, because would it have been as fresh? Did this kick right here, Sovereignty, just blow by him? Was journalism not at 100% because of the Preakness? That's horse racing. That's what you're going to be able to find out next time, where, if they were to run against each other. But
that's an interesting perspective. Where did you hear that?
Well, I was in Dubai a couple of years ago, and I've, become friendly with a lot of the people in those circles there. Not so close that I have personal relationship with anybody, but it's a big deal for them. That Dubai World Cup day, you being out there last year, they want to run their best horses, and Godolphin, sees that they have something incredibly special here. Yeah. I remember during the Fountain of Youth, if I want to go back and pull it up, and my cousin really took this stat of mine and ran with it, and he was all over this horse twice, once in the Kentucky Derby, once in the Belmont Stakes. But if you take a look on the screen here, this Fountain of Youth, when Sovereignty closed, there had been 30 dirt routes at Gulfstream by March 1st, and not one horse won from coming from more than 5 lengths back.
Wow.
He was the first one to do it. So that, on my radar, was whoa.
Yeah.
Then you kind of caught wind of some quotes from Belmont saying that we're in the Derby with the points. We're not going to be 100% cranked. And he faced Tappan Street, the China Horse Club horse in the Florida Derby, who I thought was Brad Cox's best horse. And he was right there. There was nothing wrong with the Florida Derby effort. And then you got 8-1 on Sovereignty, because journalism took a lot of money, and you're always going to kind of, the whole Derby process is a whole different conversation. But he sat the right trip and he won the Derby, but he really showed his class, and they knew what they had. They were sitting on something extremely special. And it's just my opinion that they're probably going to, they didn't want to plow 5 races into the horse, because how much that takes out of them. They're not running as much as they used to, right? Does that make sense? That's my opinion. That's not a fact, but I think that had something to do with him not running in the Preakness. Looking forward to next
year. I thought it was just because Billy Ma was being conservative, but that's a really good perspective, and it could be very, very well a fact or true.
Yeah. And, coming out of this race, it just to kind of put a how do you want to call it, blanket, to kind of put just an overall picture. I know a lot of people have been kind of emailing me and texting me, and that's another thing I'm going to use this a little bit, is to answer some questions I get through email. A lot of people email me, mark@GiddyUpBets.com. Just the Godolphin won the Matt Win on Sunday with East Avenue going wire to wire. They didn't, he's super talented. He's kind of shown that he wants to be loose on the lead, or he wants to be on the lead. I know Burnham Square was a horse during the Derby that you were high on. That was kind of a horse that you kind of liked. Is that right?
Yeah.
So he ran second to East Avenue in the Matt Win this weekend. So the 3-year-old picture is kind of, it's everybody has kind of found its place, but we have a clear defined best 3-year-old right now in Sovereignty, and journalism's probably going to go back to California. Baez is probably going to go back to California. Sovereignty I think might run in the Dandy. See how he trains. These horses have to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Burnham Square, I think I heard talking about pointing to the Haskell. Wilkes also said something about maybe grass at some point. I don't know if Tappan Street's coming back, but that kind of puts a bow on my thoughts on the Belmont Stakes and the 3-year-olds. There were a bunch of other races. Is there anything else you want to touch upon about the Belmont?
No, that was it. Yeah.
So what we're going to kind of do here is kind of going inside the mind of a jockey, is something that if you're probably listening to this, unless you're, one of the handful of jockeys that are out there or have been jockeys, there's going to be probably a lot more horse players, horsemen, horse owners that have never sat on top of the back of a horse before. And I was like, take a look at a couple of races. I knew you watched all of the races and took notes, and, you go through your whole process, which is so incredible, which I know about. And you kind of came to me and you said there were a couple of horses that you wanted to touch upon and talk about from a inside of the mind of a jockey, what's going on, what you're kind of seeing. And there were three, and there was the Woody Stevens and the True North on Saturday and the Manhattan on Sunday. Which one do you want to start with?
I guess you could go with the True North.
All right. True North. Yep. The True North was for older dirt sprinters, won by Bookham Dano. I bet Mulligan, of course, ran second. Bookham Dano, I saw his breeder or one of the breeders out for drinks at 9 Maple a couple days before, and they were very confident, but aren't they all, like a lot of these guys rolling into a grade one, they felt that the horse was doing really well. I know that the trainer was going to give instruction of, they wanted the horse to kind of be outside of horses. And let me take it away. Like, what did you see? What are you thinking?
Well, to start off, I thought, Paco rode a great race. I think he is on fire right now at Monmouth, which if he goes out of here for a weekend, I'd be very happy. But no, nothing to take away from Paco. But he's just riding lights out over here. That was a really good win for him. That was a nice purse, 400,000. I also thought Nakatomi, I like that horse, broke really bad. So that really sucked for him. And then Crazy Mason, watch this horse next time because he came flying up the rail, took a ton of dirt. I think Manny Franco rode a good job considering how badly he broke. And then also he got, the inside horse took him out a little bit. And he galloped out really well. I think he galloped out in front of the field. So he's definitely a horse to watch for next time.
Yeah, if you're looking at right now, Crazy Mason's the 2, who's about 10 lengths back of Nakatomi. Nakatomi broke slow and then rushed up, and that's so hard. I know you mentioned, and you've said to me when we were talking before, and you just mentioned it now, like taking a ton of dirt. Like, I don't think people. I think. How should I say? A horse player or a horseman that has never been on back of the horse or doesn't pay attention every day, like go over like how much that affects the horse and the jockey when you're getting what do we have, like a sloppy sealed track here? This was Saturday midday. Like what is that doing to a horse and yourself? Because we're looking right now at the top 2 finishers, which are 4 lengths clear, right? And they both have clean faces and they probably only use 1 pair of goggles.
Yeah.
Like go over in your mind, like what happens to a horse in yourself when you're on top, when you're on the back of a horse on a day like this? Like,
so for one, you get just a ton of, you're getting a ton of dirt in your goggles. We can luckily, flip our goggles down and use a fresh one, but the horses can't. So a lot of times they have to close their eyes. They have to trust us. And when you have that connection with the horse and they power through that, wall of dirt and get that muddy, that they're showing some true grit and not giving up, because a lot of horses will give up and just they've had enough of it. A lot of them, they don't like when they can't see, and they don't like when it's bombarding them in their nostrils and they can't breathe so well. But there's those ones that show that determination, and you can feel it when you're on them. They don't give up, and they're just going through it and just taking the hit for the dirt. And that for me is a horse that's got a lot of heart. And we'll see later on a horse called Gate to Wire that took a lot of dirt that never gave up in a later race. But it's just incredible to be around that, and then also to watch it. Then I always think those kind of horses are going to run good. As a jockey, I don't like to get too much dirt, so I either try to get a pocket where the horse isn't getting totally annihilated by the kickback, or you try to maybe use them up a little early to get out of that dirt. And not a lot of horses will run into it. So I would be more of I want to get out of the gate and be forwardly placed. I don't mind the pace, but I kind of prefer to be my horse to stay clean.
Yeah. Do you find that, and this might be a dumb question, but this is why I'm going to ask you. This is why I'm going to ask, because I'm not the smartest person in the world. I watch a lot of these replays, and I watch a ton of replays. And do you feel that the quality of horse, the better the horse, the mind, a better mind on a horse, I feel the better the horse is going to be, just in all different class ranges. But if you have a horse that's a grade 1 or grade 2 caliber horse, it could be any class, any condition level. Some horses just don't want run and kickback, and you might see an effort that's just extremely poor because of kickback, right? Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah. For example, I was in Dubai with Super Chow. I've won 5 in a row on the horse. And we have an exceptional relationship. I haven't obviously been on him in 2 years because of what happened. But when he went to Dubai, he broke a step slow. And there's 2 things that happen there. We don't have the bell at the gate. When you break from the gate, there's a bell that rings and it's very loud. So he didn't have that. So I give him a point for that. And then, so that was new for him. We didn't practice from the gate like the day before, walk in or walk out, which is what, George usually does. It just, it's a long walk to get to the track in Dubai at Maidan. It's hot. So there are a lot of things going on there. And Tuz, my outside horse, is a very, very good horse. And he is extremely fast from the gate. And he came over on us. So 1, we break slow. 2, I'm on heels. And then by the time we get going, there was so much kickback. And the kickback at Maidan Racetrack is unbelievable. And
Very, very tough.
threw his head up in the air. And I couldn't see past his head because it was in the air. He was so angry, so pissed off. And by that time we galloped out, he was just like, what happened? He didn't see anything. And he never had that experience before. I think that, and he did come back and run okay here in Monmouth, but he was on the lead. They did some gate work with him, which I think helped. But yeah, certain horses, they do not like it. And Super Chow was one of them.
Yeah. I think that one thing a lot of horse players miss, something that I learned a very long time ago, and I'm still learning, I'm learning more just from you saying what you said right now, is that a lot of people will see a horse not run a slow buyer or not run his usual race and might get off of the horse. But if a horse is down inside in a day that has a lot of kickback on a track, that some of these tracks, have more kickback and it's worse on the horse and the jockey than others, some people will be like, oh, maybe this horse isn't that great, especially the younger horses, but it's something to definitely more take note of. And when you're watching the replays for me, I'm watching the head on and the horse is, kicking his head back and I call it kind of climbing and he's falling back. It's super important to be like, especially if you're, if you're like, from a gambling perspective, if you're in a pick 5 and you're going 4 or 5 deep, I'd rather have the horse that I don't know what his top is, that maybe was down inside in the 2 post and now he's drawing more outside and he's getting a little bit overlooked on the tote board because he finished 7th last time, but he might have packed it in around the turn. So I just felt like that was something that was, worth noting, and how you kind of described it, we were talking about it before. I know the last race that we were talking about before was we were going to do the Woody Stevens, right?
Yeah, presented by
Yep. So the Woody Stevens was race 11 on Saturday. The winner was Patch Adams, who I thought Saez gave an unbelievable ride to. But last summer you worked, and is that right? Or you were on top of
for Todd Pletcher, and the last horse that you see go on the gate there is called Gate to Wire. Is a horse that I prepped for his first race. Got on him every morning. He is very talented, and in this particular race, he won his first time out with me. I didn't ride him in the race. I ride Ortiz did. But he won by 5 that day, and it was on grass. So this is dirt, and he breaks well, but he's in the 11 post. He's way wide. He drops way out of the race, and then he goes around the turns, ends up in Cyril's for a drink, and then comes back to the race, and he finished like 5th or 6th, I think, but it was an incredible race he ran. He took a ton of dirt. And if I think this horse runs back on turf or even dirt in a smaller field and a better post, I think he's going to be deadly because he showed a lot of grit. He took a lot of kickback and never gave up and accelerated at the end of the race.
Yeah, there's definitely more. I put in my emails in terms of like, there's more there, like he's so far back right now. And they went a really quick clip up front, but the winners are right up here. The Matticat Road ran an unbelievable race, being close to this fast pace, and he actually galloped out really well. We're going to kind of touch upon it later, but I thought the ride of the weekend went to Luis Saez on Patch Adams, and I thought it kind of started right here when they broke. He had a speed horse, two speed horses down inside of him, all the horses on the outside of him, and he's in there hustling. And you know how hard that is. Just like when you were trying to get that position, which is so important.
And he never gave up there. He never just accepted that the outside was going to take it. He kept grilling that horse. And obviously he's using the horse up a little bit, but then he does give a little bit of a breather But
Yeah.
Luke Size is like that. That he is he likes to come out of the gate and ride. Like when you ride against him, he just rides the whole race.
And like right in here, like he starts getting, we're going into the far turn now, and he's getting into him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this horse? He maybe doesn't like the track, but he is all in on this horse. He got him in the right position. And now Matticat Road is out here. The closers are kind of hunting. You've got Macho Music, who, went quick kind of on the front end. I didn't think he was at the caliber quality of some of the other horses, but you see Patch Adams, like he's been working him, urging him on, driving for, probably a full furlong and a half now. And he kind of powers just away at the end. But I thought that was incredible ride. And then the horse you were talking about back here is kind of coming on late. Matticat Road to still get a second in that race, I thought was a really good effort. There were some other kind of trips in there that I thought had some, things to it. But also when you look here up on the gallop out, like Matticat Road was right here with the 4. So I think what you were kind of putting into a nutshell is how when you were on this horse last year, like this was not as bad as an effort as it looks. They took blinkers off, and he's going to probably go back to turf. And I think that there's going to be something more there with that horse going back to turf, right? Does that kind of make? Is that my butchering that, or is that what we're thinking in your mind?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And also I see how they took the blinkers off, but I don't know. I like the blinkers on, but maybe they were trying to change something up. He does have a lot of speed. Like when his first race, he won wire to wire.
Yeah.
His name is
my thing is as a horse player, as I always call it, like I don't know I don't know these trainers personally, I kind of hear things and, and such, but when you're going into a big race like that and you're taking blinkers on or off and it's run pretty well with it already. And like maybe they're guessing, like they don't exactly know what to do. And if you're going to give me 20-1 on a horse that's guessing, I'll use that horse in a pick 5 or bet that horse to win. But when you have a horse like that was going to take a little bit of money, and I felt that with the post and everything that you kind of said there, it was just too much for me to like that horse in that spot because of just what we kind of just talked about there of kind of like of taking the blinkers off just as a guess, right?
Yeah.
Is that kind of like, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's a good perspective, and I think it's smart.
The last race you wanted to talk about that you kind of alluded to, or you mentioned to me this morning, where we're going to go back into the mind of, of a jockey was the last race of the day. The Manhattan got canceled. It's usually the race right before the Belmont Stakes, but it ended up getting canceled and kind of ruining the pick 5s on Saturday, but we tried to do the best we could. And we came back on Sunday, and personally, I had a very good day. So I didn't kind of mind the cancellations. I ended up printing a bunch of money, hitting the pick 5 a lot of times. We had a nice single. But the Manhattan was won by deterministic, going wire to wire. What kind of stuck out to you?
Yeah,
let me try to.
The horse ran fantastic. I thought Kendrick Carmouche rode a really good race. He stole it, and Johnny V almost got him with integration at the end with Shug McGahee, West Point Thoroughbreds. It was a great race. I'm happy for Kendrick. Those Cajuns, they can ride. They're just very talented. I think he's his second summer in Saratoga. I liked his interview after. He was, Cajun style with that accent and the personality.
He has a whole personality to him, which I love.
And he thanked his agent, Jimmy Riccio, which is also my agent here in Monmouth. And I just, man, he knows those Cajuns and just Kendrick has that clock, and they know how fast they're going, and he's just a top level jockey, and he rode a great race. And
yeah, there wasn't a lot of pace in the race, and right here, he breaks sharp. He had him on the lead last time. I know he doesn't have a ton of gate speed, but I thought that it helped them moving the distance to 9 furlongs. And then when the 7 didn't go out there and press, Kendrick did what he needed to do and make sure that he kind of kept his head in front of him, right? And just got into that rhythm on the front end. And the next thing you know, he's kind of comfortable on the front end in a grade 1 race, and he did his thing.
Yeah, he caught a nice breather on the backside, a little bit on the turn, and then he accelerated away, and it was just too much for integration to catch him.
Yeah, and then integration, he's kind of laying, about 5 or 6 lengths off down on the inside on the turf. I have I'm going to have to do a little bit more digging. People know that from signing up at GiddyUpBets that I go back and I take a look at all of these replays, and I really tried to find like the flows of the course, which are maybe the best paths to be on, which is not. With the way the weather was this weekend, it's going to be tough for me. I'm going to have to wait for a lot of these horses to run back, but you didn't really want to be down on the inside paths on Friday with some of the rain. Wednesday, the turf was much more firm. I don't have a true feel for that, but Sunday on the inner turf, Integration was down on the inside the whole time, 5-6 lengths back of a loose on the lead wire to wire winner, and he's probably not supposed to go by Farbridge here, who sat the perfect kind of pocket trip.
Yeah.
And he's flying. And Integration is a type of horse that I think people maybe were getting off of after, and he seems to always just miss in a way, but he ran a really nice race, but Deterministic just got too loose on the lead.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a great ride by Carmouche, and it was just kind of a great way to end the weekend. It with all the rain and everything that had gone on, and it was I was there, and there weren't a ton of people left, and it was the final race, and it just, I don't know, it's like emotional going to Saratoga, with the people here. It's and then like
be there. It's a very magical place.
It's just a magical place, especially just like growing up here with my father and his friends, and now I have new family and friends that come up here that are like family to me, and this whole weekend just it's just something inside of me. And some people are like, oh, this racetrack might be better, this racetrack might be better, and but I just have a soft spot towards Saratoga. And you watch this horse win the last race of the day, especially on a week, a couple weeks ago when Miguel's father, Christophe Clement, had passed away. But let's do this. We're, about 40 minutes into this. Again, like I was saying, we're going to kind of try to do these and keep some consistency to them. Try to try to save you some time, like I always say, and provide you with some information, have some laughs along the way. But I thought maybe kind of ending this, I know I throw this up on Twitter once in a while, and these are kind of half-hearted jokes, but they're also very serious at some points and times. But I call them power rankings. A lot of people come up with these like top 10 lists. It's like, who's the top 10 3-year-old? And I'm like, well, what distance are they running at? And then it's like, top 10 3-year-olds. I was like, how's the track playing? Or it's top 10 turf horse. And I'm like, who's riding that? Who's going to ride this horse? He rides all three of these, and everyone's like, oh, just tell me who's in the top 10. I'm like, that's not how the game works. So I like to call it GiddyUpBets power rankings. And I thought a very easy number one power ranking this week was Sovereignty.
Agreed.
He showed he was head and shoulders the class of the 3-year-old division. We've got a very special horse on our hands here. Like we were talking about before, I think the ultimate goal for Godolphin is the Dubai World Cup. So I think if I'm not Bill Mott, and Bill Mott's going to do what's right with the horse. Let's hope the horse stays healthy, but I can see something like a Jim Dandy, Travers, Breeders' Cup Classic, maybe a race after that in Dubai, maybe, and then into the Dubai World Cup, kind of lining up. I something of that nature, but he's number one on the power rankings for sure. Number two on the power rankings this week, I saw them in the last race on Wednesday, the Clement family, or they like to say the Clement tribe. I don't know them personally. I know them in passing and have friends that are friends. But Miguel Clement, who has recently taken over the stable from his father who passed away, who is just, he always had kind of a very big outlook on life the way my father did. It's like you only live once, enjoy the moment, enjoy it. And him passing away so young, it was emotional for me, and it was emotional for the family for sure. Miguel won the last race on Wednesday, which was New York Red Day, and then won the last race on Sunday in the Grade 1 Manhattan. That's awesome. Thought it was just awesome. Yeah. Number 3 on the power rankings this week is going to be John Velasquez. The guy won.
He's amazing. And everyone goes like, oh, when's he gonna? Everyone always wants to ask a jockey when they're gonna retire. It's like the stupidest question you could ever ask. Don't ever ask it to anyone. And I mean, he's so experienced and he's doing so well. I mean, he's 53. He's riding like he's just amazing. Never ever take away someone's experience. And Jerry Bailey said it best. He said, you don't even get good till after 10 years. And after that, if your body's still, responding well, like there's no substitute for experience. So anyway, he's riding amazing. So happy for him. Even Frankie Dettori too. He won a big race in Saratoga on the weekend.
He won the Met Mile. He went wire to wire on Raging Torrent, and he beat Johnny Velasquez, or otherwise Johnny Velasquez would have had 10. I liked Fierceness a lot. Yep. So you have some experienced jockeys out there that are getting it done on the biggest days. And, to say to you personally, because we've become friends and I know you're working your way back up, like to just use that as more motivation that this game is, there are a lot of jockeys out there. There aren't as many horses as there used to be, but just kind of keep riding and keep doing your thing. And you see some of these guys are still having success at the top level at an age that you never thought was kind of possible. So it's kind of cool just to kind of sweep.
And also to add, a lot of times I've had a lot of people say that only men can do it because men are stronger than women, and women can't ride at an older age.
Someone would say that in horse racing. That's no way.
A racing
way.
Actually, the other day.
Chantal, don't lie to me. There's no way someone in horse racing said that this is a man shot. No, I don't believe.
So yeah, that just fires me up more, and I feel like when everybody doesn't believe in you, you got to believe in yourself, and it's only your limitations. Nobody knows how your body feels, how you're responding, how you feel on a horse, and only and I know how I feel. I know Johnny knows how he feels, and Mike Smith and whoever. But if we want to be here and we're getting back on horses, know that we know, and we want to be here, and we know something that we know.
Yeah, you got the experience to go with it. And then just to kind of sweep through these, I mentioned it before. I thought the Saez ride on Patch Adams was kind of my number 4 on the power rankings. I just thought that was just an incredible ride to just get into that position, get that horse to win. He's super talented. He was a horse I thought was going to be a Kentucky Derby contender, but he's kind of solidified now that he wants one turn. At number 5, needs to go a shout out, and the power rankings. It should be higher. It should probably, it needs to be. It needed to be in the top 5. The people that worked at the racetrack this weekend, if you worked in the backstretch, if you were a waiter, if you were a teller, they're asking us to get there they're asking you to get there at 7 a.m. and leave at like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Like, I understand it's a little greedy to have run 14 races on Friday, and it didn't end up being 14 races on Saturday, but starting the day at 10:45 in the morning and ending it 8:07 at night, having 6 pick 5s, I respect the heck out of, and a lot of people who make the decisions in NYRA, but sometimes you're just like, we're human beings. Like, these trainers and assistant trainers and jockeys, like, that's got to be the grooms, the whole list. I'm going to forget people, but everybody, the security guard standing there, like, he's supposed to get there at 11 o'clock, post time at 1. You leave at 6. You go get something to eat. You had a great day at the track. Like, the best racing in the world is going to happen at Ascot next week. They have 6 races a day. We're going to have 28 races in 2 days. So a shout out has to go to the people that worked at the track. Sure. It was an incredible weekend. And without them, we wouldn't be anywhere, especially the guys in the backstretch. Like, these guys are just working so hard, and to ask people to show up at 4 a.m. for horses and then not leave till 10 o'clock at night if you had a horse running later in the day was just crazy. Number 6, Naj Thompson is kind of become a friend of mine in passing. He is a big, huge part of the New York bred races. You see the hat I'm repping right here. The hat is top-notch quality. When sometimes you go to some of these racetracks, they give away a hat, like the Haskell hat at Monmouth's pretty good, and you're like, solid hat. Big shout out. Wednesday, New York Bred Stakes Day is always one of my favorite days. He did an unbelievable job. Number 7, Journalism Connections. They ran in all 3 Triple Crown races. Tip your cap to them. Yeah. If, and I put in parentheses there, Sham, like, I'm not saying Sovereignty's Secretariat, but it kind of just made me think of Sham, like, if this horse might have run in a different year, wasn't born in the same year as Sovereignty, it could be a Triple Crown winner. Like, it ran second in the Derby. It ran an unbelievable race in the Preakness, one of the most exciting races you'll ever see, and then ran second again in the Belmont. Like, how much more can you ask for? Yeah. Number 8, power ranking. Big shout out to Umbrellas. It rained this weekend. It stunk, but Umbrellas definitely helped me out. Power ranking number 9. I heard whispers that Belmont Park is ahead of schedule. Can you believe that?
Yeah, it's good.
Like, something in New York that's being construction-wise is ahead of schedule. Like, that's unheard of. But I'm hearing from pretty good sources that Belmont Park is ahead of schedule. So kudos to them. Number 10 on the GiddyUpBets PodToga power rankings. A couple of friends of mine and some just unbelievable people that support the game, that supported the game on Sunday. They had a winner. Ace Jack Suited Racing, Justin Nicholson. July Cavalry Racing is a friend of mine in Andrew Calvano, and he's kind of starting his own little business that he's going to, take from the ground up. He's a young kid, went to St. John's, and he named his stable July Cavalry Racing. And because everybody kind of comes in July in Saratoga, and, it's just such a great time. But also the initials, JC, or his father, Joe Calvano, who passed away last year or 2 years ago. It's been 2 years now. And it was super emotional. They won, I believe it was the 6th or 7th race on Sunday. Norm Cassie and them and the team privately purchased the horse. They ran into New York for the first time, and it's a stakes caliber horse. It was a serious effort. And Ace Jack Suited Racing and Norm just claimed the horse a few months ago, who came back and won the race right before the Black Eyed Susan. So the Pimlico Special. So kudos to them. I wanted to give them a shout out. So, those are my power rankings. That's kind of my thought process. I've got some emails going out to some giddy uppers about a little bit more in-depth detail of, what happened this weekend. I was super excited. I made a huge bet on Lacara and the Acorn, and she wired the field, and I was the loudest one screaming. Been waiting for her to come back and win in this race. And it was just an unbelievable weekend. And, next thing you know, it's Wednesday, and what do we do? Like, this horse racing there's no time off, right? Like, it better than anybody. We're this Saturday at Monmouth Haskell preview day, right? So you've got a few mounts, and we're right back. We're giddy up, and we're right back at it.
Yep. So then I guess we'll recap, Tuesday or Wednesday next week. We'll have this weekend. Yeah.
I think, like we said at the top, this is episode 1 of many. We might pop in and if we think something's interesting and do something quick, but I think we're going to do this for now in a kind of a weekly fashion. But anybody that has any questions for Chantal, anybody that, wants to say anything positive or negative or make a correction, maybe if we said something that wasn't right, you can I'll take over that responsibility for now. You can email me at mark@GiddyUpBets.com. You can sign up at GiddyUpBets.com to get my analysis. You can turn on Monmouth and watch Chantal crush it on this Saturday. And other than that, we're at 50 minutes. I don't want to be one of those hour podcasts where people maybe might fall asleep to. We're going to tighten these up a little, but I thought it was important to kind of introduce everything and kind of end with this. And I don't know, is there anything else you want to add?
No, I'm just excited. This is awesome. And I hope everyone has a really good weekend. I hope I have a great weekend and all my horses run really well, and hope you get, make a few pick sixes and make some money, print money. And thanks for doing this. I think I'm really excited about it.
I'm excited too. We're going to try to press your strongest opinion and print money this weekend, as we normally try to do. So good luck to you. This was great. We're going to circle back. And we're going to make this something that's going to be a little bit more than me just kind of sitting in my living room. And we've got some plans. Let's see if they come about. But for now, happy Belmont Stakes, Belmont Stakes Wednesday. Happy Haskell Preview Wednesday. Giddy up. And thanks for your time.
Yep. See you later.
Giddy up.